Hi everybody, welcome to the licensing hearing for Pairings 18 Castlegate. I understand that Councillor Rose has been elected as chair and I'll pass over to him now.
Thank you very much. I'll get through this briefly. Apologies for the delay. In terms of opening comments, just to make it clear, as well as being live webcast now, a recording of this hearing will be made available to view on the council's website. Moving straight into apologies for absence. Unfortunately, Councillor Pete Cobain is absent, but fortunately, Councillor Ian Cuthbertson is in attendance in his stead. So moving into item 3, introductions. Around the table we have Councillors Cuthbertson, Hook and myself, Councillor Rose. We have officers Helen Sefton, Angela Bealby, Jodie Ingram and Lucy Waller. And then we have the applicants Kelly Gamble and Kate Latham on behalf of Pairings Limited. And we have as a representative Ms. Bic Wong, who's a local resident. Thank you everyone for being here today. Item number 4, declarations of interest. Is there anything to declare? None at all from us. And then, as is traditional, item number 5, a resolution proposed from me to exclude press and public for the deliberations of this licence. Is that approved by councillors? Fabulous. Then we'll move straight into item 6, determination of application. I'll start by going through the proceedings to make sure everyone understands and is happy with what we're going through. So the licensing officer will present their report. There's then an opportunity for each party to ask the licensing manager questions about the report. The applicants, Kelly and Kate, on behalf of Pairings Limited, will then present their application for up to a total of 15 minutes. There is then an opportunity for BIC and members of the councillors to ask the applicant questions about that application. And then BIC will present her representation for 15 minutes or less. And Kelly and Kate and ourselves will then have the opportunity to ask questions about the representation. And then there are 5 minutes for BIC to sum up and then 5 minutes for Pairings to sum up. And then councillors will ask any last questions before we make the decision outside of press and public. Is everyone okay with that procedure? Does anyone have any questions? Okay, fabulous. Then we'll go straight into the licensing manager's report, please, if that's okay, Helen.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So this is an application for the grant of a premises licence made by Pairings Limited for 18 Castlegate, York. The nature of the application is to allow for the sale of alcohol for consumption on and off the premises and the provision of late night refreshments indoors at a city centre restaurant. The application is for the sale of alcohol on and off from 10 AM to midnight, Sunday to Thursday, and 10 AM to 1 AM, Friday and Saturday, with late night refreshments from 11 PM to midnight, Sunday to Thursday, and 11 PM to 1 AM, Friday and Saturday. Premises opening hours are 9 AM to midnight 30, Sunday to Thursday, and 9 AM to 1:30, Friday and Saturday. So a copy of the application and the plans is at Annex 1, and that starts at page 23 of your papers. As part of the application, the operating schedules submitted by the applicants show that they intend to meet the licensing objectives as indicated in paragraph 9 of the report, and that is page 16 to 18. So this premises is located within the cumulative impact area. I can confirm that the consultation process for this application was carried out correctly, and there have been no representations from any of the responsible authorities. There have been representations from 2 other persons, and they have objected to the grant of the licence, stating that the prevention of public nuisance objective could be compromised if this licence is granted. And their representations are Annex 6, pages 59 to 63. So a map showing the general area around the premises is at Annex 7. And today, the committee, you have the following options. So option 1 is to grant the licence in the terms applied for. Option 2, grant the licence with modified additional conditions imposed by the committee. Option 3, grant the licence to exclude any licensable activity to which the application relates and or modify the conditions accordingly. Option 4 is to refuse to specify a person as the premises supervisor. And option 5 is to reject the application. So that is my report, and obviously happy for any questions.
Thank you. The questions first are from the applicants, if there are any questions for the licensing manager about that report. Great. And then, Bic, if you've got any questions about what was just said or the contents of the report today, please feel free to ask Any questions now?
So I couldn't comment on the content.
Okay, no worries. By the way, there's a microphone button, sorry, in the middle of the
Yes, I'm aware.
okay. Members, any questions as subcommittee members for the licensing manager? I don't think I've got any either, which is rare. In which case we'll go into 15 minutes for the applicant's case. I'll give you a 1-minute warning if we get that far. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak today. My name is Kate Latham, and this is my sister and business partner, Kelly Gamble. Together we run Pairings, an independent, award-winning, wine-led restaurant on Castlegate. For nearly 10 years, we have operated responsibly at 28 Castlegate, always holding a premises licence and, importantly, without a single complaint from residents, neighbouring businesses or the responsible authorities. Pairings has built a reputation as a relaxed, welcoming space, very different from high volume or late night drinking venue. We are here today only because our landlord at 28 Castlegate has refused to renew our lease, leaving us no option but to relocate a few doors down to 18 Castlegate. Pairings is not about volume or late night drinking. We're certainly not a 2-for-1 cocktail bar. Our ethos is very different. We focus on quality rather than quantity. We are a seated venue with a full table service, offering an experience designed to encourage conversation and connection, not noise or disruption. Our average spend per head reflects that people come to us for an occasion, for something thoughtful and memorable, not simply for a quick drink. What makes Pairing special is the art of pairing food and drinks. We bring together the best of locally sourced produce and match them with wines that enhance the flavour and the story. It's more than hospitality. It's an education and an experience. Guests often come away having discovered something new about what they are drinking and eating. As a result, our clientele tends to be older, professional and discerning. People value the atmosphere we've created, calm, conversational and inclusive. We pride ourselves on being safe, well-managed, a safe, well-managed, welcoming venue that enhances Castlegate rather than disrupts it. We already meet each of the licensing objectives, and here's how we'll carry that forward at this venue. So covering prevention and crime and disorder, we have clear policies for staff training and operate Challenge 25. We've never had any issues relating to crime or disorder and have every intention of keeping it that way. CCTV will be installed throughout the premises with cameras both inside and outside to monitor activity and provide a deterrent against any potential antisocial behaviour. Signs will be clearly displayed, informing guests that they are being recorded. Covering public safety, our staff are trained in safety procedures and we keep the premises well managed. In the time we've been operating, we've not needed to employ a door supervisor, which reflects the nature of our business operations. In addition, we are investing in building a full commercial kitchen, which makes us very much a food-led venue rather than a drinking-led. On public nuisance, we've already been operating at a location where the nearest residents are at a very similar distance to those near our proposed premises, and in all that time we have not received any complaints about noise. We encourage our guests to leave quietly with signage around the premises. All doors and windows will be closed by 11 p.m. on an evening, and we will only ever have background music. Our guests don't come to us for live music or live entertainment. They come because they want to enjoy good food and conversation with friends. Children, families are an important part of our customer base, and we apply strict rules around age verification. Children are only allowed until 6 p.m. and always supervised, and our environment is designed to be safe and welcoming. We've taken care to consult with the council's licensing and environmental health teams, as well as North Yorkshire Police, before submitting this application. None of those responsible authorities have raised any objection, which we believe is testament to both our track record and our continued commitment to the licensing objectives. It is our intention to surrender the licence we currently have at 28 Castlegate and feel that relocating our existing business will not add to the cumulative impact in York City Council. In addition, we have made efforts to reach out to the residents to listen to their concerns and to see if we could come to a mutual understanding, as we want to maintain a positive relationship with our neighbours. Unfortunately, we heard nothing from Ms Clark, and Ms Wong was on holiday at the time, so a conversation was not possible. We respect the views of our neighbours and we are committed to working with them to address any concerns. We hope the committee can see that we have taken responsible steps already and will continue to do so. Granting this licence would allow us to sustain our business while operating in a way that supports the local community and maintains the licensing objectives. Thank you.
Thank you. You have another 8 minutes if there is anything that you've not said. Great. Then we've got 5 minutes for Vic to ask any questions of the applicants that you might want to ask at this time. If you're happy to use the microphone, and if you've got any questions, ask them now.
Right. It's not a specific question to the applicants at the present time. What I would like to understand is that if a license is granted and say establishment A, for the sake of argument, is granted a license to serve alcohol until 12 midnight, there may be a distinction between the actual licensing hours and opening hours. Is that assumption correct?
There are different licensing hours to opening hours in this application. Opening hours are half an hour later than licensing hours. That doesn't mean they have to use those opening hours, but that would be what would be licensed.
Yes, so if a business concern is licensed to operate until midnight, that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to. They could close an hour.
They can close up to midnight on what are the hours that we've got here? So I appreciate this is me answering questions that are sort of posed applicant. Opening hours are until midnight Sunday to Thursday and 1:30 AM Friday, Saturday nights.
Understood.
Have you got any questions for the applicants about anything related to that?
I had certain concerns to express, which probably isn't the right time to express them.
You get 15 minutes in a moment if you've
Yes.
got concerns to raise. It was only if you wanted to ask questions about what they intend to do or anything like that.
Yes.
Okay, fabulous. In which case, questions from councillors?
Given that opening hours have been mentioned and your previous experience, do you always operate up to the last minute, or do you sometimes say, well, it's not very busy, we're closing early, or is it just for special things I'm needing you?
We have the opening hours a bit later so that we can stagger the times that when guests leave. So we close a bit earlier than advertised, or sorry, than our license allows. We advertise the closing time early just so that not all the guests are leaving at the same time, which would cause disruption. So yeah, so it just gives them opportunity to finish their drinks, and then we can stagger their leaving times.
I've got a few questions. The first one's about that, which is the licensing hours and opening hours applied for here are slightly less than the hours that you've got at the existing premises on the license, but are a little bit longer than the actual advertised opening hours and the kind of practical opening hours. What were the reasons for the times that you picked here rather than applying for one of those two numbers from the existing premises?
We've found that people don't go out as late as they used to. People seem to come, going out earlier, and therefore we just didn't feel it necessary to have to extend those hours.
Yeah. How we have our hours are seasonal. So the ones that are advertised at the moment, they will change as it gets into the busier Christmas period. So it just gives us a bit more flexibility.
And you're usually closing, I guess, around 10 PM on weekdays, that sort of ballpark, 11 PM in winter.
Yeah,
months.
midweek.
Is there a reason it's
Yeah.
it's midnight and
Yeah.
not something like 11:30?
We've had occasions when people, for example, local theatre have wanted to come in after the performance, so it just gives us that flexibility for private bookings.
Okay. It talks about that you're a seated drinks establishment primarily. Are there circumstances where you'd have vertical drinking, standing drinking for private events or anything, or is it always?
We would always have some seats available, yeah.
And use of external area ends at 9 PM in the conditions that you've proposed, does that include bins and things like that, like glass recycling?
As in,
No, the bin, that would be later. Yeah, it's just for people coming, people not drinking after 9 PM outside. It would just be the bins will be, later on.
Okay. I'm thinking through all the things that we've put as conditions before about changing those opening hours or vertical drinking limits or late night bins, etc., in terms of impact on residents. That's all. And then paragraph 4 of the supplemental document you provided talks about surrendering the existing license as part of the move. Would you be happy with that being a condition on the license, that the new license is granted with the proviso that the existing license is surrendered during that move?
Yeah.
Obviously, we'd
Yeah.
appreciating we'd have to figure out what the wording is around timings on however that would work in practice.
Yeah.
Fab. Yeah, I don't think I've got any other questions. Okay, great. In which case, we'll move on to BIC's 15 minutes, if that's okay. Raise any questions, concerns, or comments that you have. Thank you. I'll give you a warning if you're approaching it.
So I'm here on behalf of the residents along Castlegate. I'm at 11B Castlegate. One of the things that I would ask the councillors to bear in mind, or the decision makers in this application, is that 18 Castlegate, where the wine bar intends to move to, is slightly closer to the residents. Right next door is number 16 Castlegate, and that's a residential property. And my understanding is that it's used as an Airbnb at the moment. So it probably has a transient population. Diagonally opposite is Gloucester House, which is all of the residents there are owner occupiers who are there continuously, and it's perfectly foreseeable that some of them will be working people. What the concern of the residences is that during the working week, it's a reasonable expectation that activity stops at 11 o'clock. There is a public house further along Castlegate, that's the Blue Boar, and their opening hours from Sunday to Thursdays are 11 PM, and Fridays and Saturdays 12 midnight. Those are their advertised hours. Now, as residents, we can live with that. It's not our purpose to be hostile to people who want to run a perfectly legitimate business. What we are concerned about is the risk, and I emphasise the word risk, of Castlegate becoming, to put it explicitly, the stag night and hen night run, that Castlegate never becomes a part of that. At the moment, from my observations, there haven't been hen parties or stag nights along Castlegate, and the residents are anxious that that situation remains. I don't think that anybody would dispute that at the weekend there are disruptive visitors from outside of York who come to have stag parties and head nights, and some of them are drunk and disorderly and make a nuisance of themselves in the city centre. The residents are anxious that Castlegate remains unaffected by that. No one is making any accusations that the clients at the Pairings wine bar have caused trouble. I accept that it's not the sort of establishment that is going to attract hen parties or stag nights. But there is concern about commercial activity beyond 11 PM from Sundays to Thursdays, because those days, the next day would be a working day. We accept that at the weekend there has to be some flexibility. And the views of the residents are that stopping business activity at 12 midnight on Fridays and Saturdays is a reasonable expectation. Bank holidays, by my calculation, there are 3 bank holidays on Mondays during the year. That is to say, the 2 May bank holidays and the August bank holiday, where the next day would be a working day. I'm not sure what the intentions of the wine bar would be on that. On a Sunday bank holiday, that is probably going to be Easter Sunday, where it would be followed by Easter Monday. So the next day would not be a working day. What the residents would say about that is that Sunday bank holidays, if activity stops at 12 midnight. But there is concern about business activity stopping at a certain hour, but actually closing half an hour later. There is still a slight risk of noise. And as I've said, 18 Castlegate is closer to where the residents actually are. We are occasionally troubled by people, and I'm sorry to be crude, urinating along Castlegate, probably because it's a more secluded street than some central streets, and throwing up when they've had too much drink. Now, I'm not for one moment suggesting that Pairings are responsible for that, but we are concerned that that just remains occasional and doesn't become the norm. The other thing that concerns us is that the opening hours of the Blue Boar, as I've said, they stop on Sundays to Thursdays at 11 o'clock. Their closing hours on Fridays and Saturdays are 12 midnight. Now, if any establishment along Castlegate was allowed to extend their business activity beyond what the Blue Boar are doing, then there obviously is a possibility that the owners of the Blue Bar will say, well, hold on a minute, we want to extend our opening hours as well. I don't know what the license of the Blue Boar is. I don't know what conditions are attached to their license, but those are the concerns of the residents. Am I within my 15 minutes?
Oh, well within your 15 minutes. If you've got any other points you haven't made, then you've got time to make them.
That's all that I want to say at the present time. I mean, I would be interested to know from the owners of the wine bar how logistically this proposal that serving alcohol stops, but the guests are allowed to stay half an hour beyond the advertised closing time. I mean, that's not an issue on Fridays and Saturdays. It could possibly be an issue during the working week.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you both used about half your time, so very a conservative use of time. We have got a separate section at the end for sum up, but I think we're probably allowed to be lenient if you want to answer that question as part of your 5 minutes of asking questions to the representative. But yes, the next 5 minutes is for the applicant to ask any questions.
So we would call last orders for the sale of alcohol, and then it just gives the guests time to finish their drinks. So we would stop the serving of alcohol, but it would allow guests to finish their drinks and then leave in a timely manner, which is why the difference of the sale of alcohol to the closing times.
So, just so that I understand this, say, for example, your closing time is 11 o'clock. At what point in time would you stop taking orders for alcohol?
So if our closing time is, so if we usually say we've got half an hour before our closing time, we would call last orders.
Constant.
Yeah.
Right, anything that's been said?
You mentioned obviously that the opening hours of the Blue Book. So you're not, can I just clear up, you don't know what the licensing hours are? So this is the Blue Board that they're just their advertised opening hours, but they possibly could have licensing hours that go beyond that. And if they did change their mind to close from 12 o'clock, they could possibly do that till 1 o'clock, but is that just what they've advertised rather than what they're allowed to do?
Yes, so I don't know what the terms of the license of the Blue Boar are. The opening hours that I quoted are the opening hours that are advertised on their website, which I assume are accurate.
Thank you very much. Any questions from councillors?
Just one from me, Chair. Thank you for your observations. I think it's important to distinguish between the point at which alcohol stops being sold and the point at which customers are going to be leaving the premises. So you'll usually find that it's quite clear from the papers that there's a half-hour gap between the end of the sale of alcohol and the closing time of the evening. Are you clear on that? I'm not. I detected. I thought that you might have some confusion there because you mentioned closing time, and I thought you'd made it sort of overlap with the end of the sale of alcohol. And they are two very clearly different times in these papers.
Right, so it's been clarified that the time that last orders are taken for alcohol is about 30 minutes ahead of the actual closing time. I think that's what you're saying,
Okay.
isn't it?
I just wanted to confirm that you were content with that point, that it was established.
Yes, I'm
Thank-
content
okay.
that it's established.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Two questions from me. The first was, you mentioned the disruption in the city centre from disruptive visitors or from stag and hen parties specifically, but I think that we all know there are certain other evenings of the year where there are specific challenges as well, public urination, etc. To understand your thinking of this, you have zero opinion that there has been any issue at all with the current premises, but moving it to the other end of the street and being closer, there might be a risk, or is that a separate point that you're making in general, that it's something for us to be mindful of that doesn't impact this licensing application?
Right, so what the concern of the residents is, and as I've said, no one is making any accusations against the Pairings wine bar specifically. And I suspect that the people who have behaved in an antisocial manner along Castlegate are probably nothing to do with the Castlegate business concerns. What the concern of the residents is that if an establishment that was serving alcohol was allowed to do so into the small hours of the morning, there would be a risk that they would become one of the venues for hen nights and parties. That's the concern. It's more a concern about risk than what is actually going on at the moment. As we are, or as the residents are all in a fairly central location, then we have to accept that there is going to be noise and some antisocial behaviour along our street from time to time. But the point is that we don't want it to become a regular fixture. I mean, it's quite bad enough that Stonegate and Piccadilly, those places get disturbed at the weekends. But I think I'm right in saying that there are fewer residents along Stonegate and Piccadilly and other streets. Castlegate is, although it's central, it's narrower and it seems to be more secluded from tourist attention. It's a thoroughfare for people visiting the Castle Museum by day, but that is altogether a different issue. And it isn't a problem, obviously.
Thank you. Yes, there are lots of streets in the city centre that have varying levels of residents. I think Piccadilly might actually have about 1,000, about 1,000 residents, possibly end to end on Piccadilly. But it's about where those locations are and the cumulative impact across the whole of that area. Fully understood. I guess my second question ties into that, which is the concerns that you have specifically after 11 p.m. on weeknights and after midnight on weekends and bank holidays. Is that a concern that you are raising with Pairings for them to manage their opening hours and to, as far as is reasonable, have their regular opening hours limited to the hours they currently have, or before 11 on weekdays? Or is it something that you think they should not be allowed to do in their license, which they currently can do, and we'll check later, but I believe the Blue Ball can do currently as well? Do you think it should be limited in the license, or do you think it should be them managing that with their own opening hours?
We would prefer that it was a condition of the licence, although I perfectly accept that these ladies have made strenuous efforts to reach out to us. Unfortunately, I've been away from York until yesterday. I only got back into York on Wednesday evening, so I haven't really been physically here to be able to talk to them directly.
That's okay. Thank you very much. I've got no further questions. Okay, so we go into the sum up phase. You get 5 minutes to sum up, Vic. If there's any additional comments or a summary you want to provide, you don't have to, but you've got 5 minutes if you'd like to add anything.
Right, I think that I've said all that I need to say. I have had a conversation with my neighbour at 11D Castlegate, who would be certainly in my house the resident most affected by any antisocial behaviour. And her view, which I've stated on her behalf, and probably this reflects the views of the other residents as well, is that we're fine with an 11 p.m. closing time from Sundays to Thursdays, midnight on Fridays and Saturdays. Bank holiday Sunday, there probably isn't too much concern about, because the reality is that a bank holiday Sunday would probably be Easter Sunday, where the next day is going to be a non-working day. It would be Easter Monday. I'm not sure what the intentions are for the bank holidays on Mondays, which fall. There are 2 in May and there's 1 in August. That's all that I have to say.
Thank you. I guess to be clear, Mondays and Sundays are still treated as Mondays and Sundays, even on bank holidays in the licence, whatever they choose to do with their opening hours, practically. But the licence persists on bank holidays as a normal week. 5 minutes for the applicants to sum up and make any comments or answer anything or add any new final points.
Just briefly, I know you mentioned obviously your neighbour on 11D and the residents surrounding. No one else, there's only just Ms Clark that's actually and yourself that's actually objected to our licensing. So I appreciate that you're speaking on behalf of these other residents, but just they haven't actually objected to our license, which I just wanted to mention. Our concern is that if we did close at 11 p.m, then we would, when guests leave, more guests will leave at that particular time, rather than being able to stagger them later on. Because if people do want, if people will finish their drinks and then they'll all leave together. Whereas if you can have that sort of later licensing, then it staggers it, which will reduce the disturbance.
Yeah, so just to summarise, in the 10 years we've been operating on Castlegate, Pairings has never received a single complaint. We are not a new or disruptive venture, simply a well-established business being forced to move because our landlord has refused to renew our lease. This relocation does not add disturbance to Castlegate. We are already here operating quietly and respectfully. Pairings employs 25 people, many of them trained sommeliers who see this as their career path, not just a job. If this licence is not granted, our business will be forced to close and those livelihoods and skills will be lost. Pairings is about quality, not quantity, conversation, not disruption. We simply want the chance to continue contributing positively to Castlegate and to York's hospitality scene. Thank you for your time.
You have another 3 minutes if you do want to say anything else. Fab, in which case it's up for us for any final points of clarification. If I may jump in very quickly to just ask about the Blue Ball licensing hours and opening hours as much as we understand them. What can you tell us, Al?
Well, just for a bit of context, and not to pick on the Blue Ball, there are actually 8 other licensed premises on Castlegate. Of those, 4 of them have a license of either 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. The Blue Ball has 1 a.m. every day. They may not operate till 1 a.m, but they are licensed till 1 a.m. And there is a neighbouring property at 3A that actually has 2 a.m. The other premises that are licensed, one is licensed till 10 p.m, 1 till 11 p.m, 1 till midnight, and the final one is Fairfax House, which operates sort of during the day. So, does that help?
Yes, it helps. I guess following on from that, would you consider any reduction from what you've applied for based on the representatives and residents' comments, or do you feel that is the hours that are appropriate and justified for this? What are your thoughts?
I think we would like to have the hours that we've applied for, based on the fact that they are the same as what we've currently got at 28 Castlegate, and we've had no issues with it in the past. However, if the committee feel that we should reduce them, we will obviously be open to doing that. It's based on what you suggested. Yeah,
that's just sounding it out in case there was a strong thought by you of anything particular. Any questions from our side of the table?
Nothing from me, Chair.
Nothing else from me, in which case we will close the public hearing and reconvene in private for deliberations. All 3 of you are very welcome to wait. It shouldn't be very long, but we can't promise that. And we'll switch off the webcast and then turn the webcast back on to say the kind of decision in wording, but the official writing will be made to all parties in the coming days. And the webcast is available online. If people do want to leave, they're very welcome to. It's up to you. But yeah, let's close the session there. Thank you. Thank you very much for waiting, and I appreciate your patience. I'll move straight into this and not beat about the bush. Noting your willingness to limit opening hours, work with residents, and to surrender the existing premises licence at 28 Castlegate, the subcommittee decision was to determine option 1, to grant the licence in the terms applied for. The full reasons for the decision will be notified in writing to all parties in due course. And that concludes today's session. Thank you very much.